I'm Adam Meyer of Mill City Lutherie in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and in this video we're going to be doing a restoration, basically a restoration on this Martin M38. Not a full dreadnought size, very nice guitar, rosewood back and sides. The issue is this guitar spent a significant amount of its life in the rainforests of Costa Rica. It's very unlike what happens here in Minnesota, where everything gets really dried out and you have certain things wanting to crack, wanting to give way. This having kind of the same thing, but from being too humidified. So we've got a lot of belly in the top, it's sinking around here, loose brace. The neck is backbowing really bad. I suspect somewhere along the line the action was getting real high, so the idea was they tightened the truss rod as much as they could to try and get the strings down, but that's not the correct way to do that. So first issue, we got to get this truss rod loose. I'll go over all the little issues with this in the next stage, and from there we'll then start the real work. So here we have the top, kind of looking across, and we've got kind of a compound issue here. Put down a little piece of tape so I don't scratch anything. You see, if I put a long ruler or a straight edge back here behind the bridge, it's bellying out a lot. But if we come here around the sound hole, it is caving in quite a bit. So we're going to get the electronics pulled out, tend to the truss rod first. Once we get that working correctly, then we got to come up with a plan of action on getting this top to come back to normal. Because this is the combination of the two, that is not good. We got to get this flattened out a bit. Alright, the guitar may still be laying on its back, but this is a lightweight instrument, so it's not going to throw things off a whole lot. You can see by my relief gauge, in a second here, get this set up right. We've got a back bow of about 7/1000. That is with the truss rod that it will not come loose. It is fused in place. And I don't know if you can kind of see that, how this kind of rocks back and forth. It's not an actual straight edge, but you get an idea. It's curving backwards out of playable range. Right, want to inspect the inside. So I've got a little camera hooked up to my phone. Hopefully I can edit this together so I can show everyone what's going on here. Now looking inside where this cross brace, where you have the little crack right here where my thumb is. Okay, where this crack here, I'm going to inspect the cross brace there. We look at video from my phone. There's a hole for the truss rod access, and that brace right there, that has come loose. Usually when you have one of those little cracks along the edge of your fingerboard, you might have a brace right in that area that has come loose. So we've got that to deal with. Now let's go take a look deeper inside the guitar. Bridge plate has some wear. It's not that bad, but the top is really bulging, so we need to get that taken care of. We have scallop braces. So there's scallop braces, so might have an issue there. Take a peek around. Most of these appear to be holding together pretty well, and I'm not seeing anything loose. I will follow up with feeler gauges and try and push along the edge where the the brace contacts the top just to make sure. And this here, yeah, there we go. Yeah, we do have brace that is, let's see, that is right here. That's where that brace is loose. So we're going to have to deal with that. And then just confirming, if I grab that brace where that separation was and I push here, I can definitely feel the two pieces wiggling. That is definitely loose. Kind of feel around the rest of the guitar. I'm not noticing anything else. And like I said, doing this kind of work, I might end up just by way of pulling out the bridge plate, I may end up causing other braces to come loose. It's not uncommon for that to happen. Might actually be to the benefit of this guitar to have the braces loose so I can get this top clamped flatter and then clamp the braces to it. Or if we have a brace that is warped and it's curved too much where I can't clamp it, well then I'd have to end up coming up with a plan of removing it and replacing it with a new brace. But hopefully we don't come to that situation. All right, I need to get this truss rod broke free and actually adjustable so I can fully diagnose this instrument. I'm going to take a look inside here. So that's the access hole to the truss rod. That's looking pretty stripped out. It's not all the way stripped out. You can still feel a wrench wanting to grab in there. But if you look back here, truss rod, you know, the nut goes all the way back to the neck block. If you see that brown square there, that's a washer. That's not supposed to be stuck to anything. I have a feeling that it's just kind of rusted together. That's part of what's not allowing this to break free. So I'm going to take a Q-tip with some penetrating oil. I'm going to keep rubbing that on there so I can hopefully get a little bit of that oil in between the two pieces and actually let that help to break the nut free. Okay, anytime you have a truss rod that doesn't want to move, you should always try to loosen it before anything else. Even if you need to tighten it up, loosen it first to make sure that you haven't maxed out the threading. You don't want to strip it. You don't want to, strip the Allen or socket head of the nut. And you could also just shear off the truss rod. So you always want to try and loosen it first. Also, if you are not sure, check online what size your truss rod wrench is supposed to be. Martin's, it's 5 millimeters. Many import guitars, not made in America, let's say you have an Epiphone or brands like that. Most of the time they are 4 millimeter Allen wrenches. But always, if you're not sure, start with a size that you know is too big. Then go down in size until you find the one that fits. If you try and guess the right one and you happen to be just a little bit too small, you can round over the inside of that Allen socket and then you're screwed. American fenders, they're traditionally 1/8 of an inch. There are, like the bases are 3/16. A lot of the Mexican made fenders are 3/16. But always check. Don't just take my word for it right here. Make sure and double check. So I'm going to show you with this. I've got this truss rod wrench, which is basically 4 Martins. And I can get it fit into the nut. And this does not want to let loose. Also, it feels like somebody was probably using the wrong size wrench. There's a lot of play in this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this penetrating oil. I'm going to put it on a Q-tip, and I'm be reaching in and putting that on where I showed you where that rusty washer is. I'm going to keep doing that probably over a couple days. Like every time I walk by, I'm going to set this up on my second workbench and just have it sitting there. I'm going to keep adding little by little, and just checking the truss rod maybe after a day. Just let it soak in the best I can, because if I break this off, well then I'm now stuck having to replace a truss rod in this guitar, so I don't want to do that. If it happens where I get this truss rod nut out, and like I said, there's a lot of play in it, I can always replace that. They're maybe $10 to $15. That's not a big deal at all. Also make sure to put any, maybe like some wax paper or something inside. You don't want to drip any oil on anything. That's why I'm using going to be using a Q-tip, not a syringe or anything, because that can squirt all over. And I'm just going to add like a couple drops at a time, little by little, let it work, because as I said, I don't want to make a mess in there. That's bad news, getting any petroleum products on the raw wood inside this. Wax paper. Just tuck this in. It's a much bigger piece than what I need, but it's, you know, it'll do the job. Get it laid out. It's up against the neck block. Then, as I said, we're just going to soak the end of this swab. You have a paper out here in front of the guitar that did not drop in the guitar. And then it's just carefully reaching in, kind of feel where that truss rod nut is. I'll kind of turn this over. Just wiping the oil around where that truss rod nut meets the actual truss rod in the washer. Right here we have normal truss rod wrench. It's just an Allen wrench. That's 6 sides. It's all square. It kind of has a little ball end shape to it. So if you have to go in at a little bit of an angle, it'll fit in there. But since this one I can feel is really worn out, there's what's called a gripper wrench. It's tapered, and that'll fit in when the Allen head has been stripped out a little bit. So we're going to go in with this one. Get it in there nice and snug. There we go. A little bit of a pop, and now it's loose. I'm going to take it all the way loose, and we'll just let it sit for a day or two to kind of relax. But this is really good news. So I got the truss rod nut loose. Just a special note on this, that thing was nearly rounded out on the inside. I almost couldn't get it out of there. Just same reason somebody, for whatever reason, they backbowed the neck. They're probably trying to get the action down, whatever. Regardless, we need to replace the truss rod nut. I am not able to get an actual Martin truss rod nut. I've tried contacting them directly. I've contacted also other Martin warranty certified shops in my region. They can't provide one, but I found a replacement. This is a special note for anybody out there who might ever need one. I believe it is actually made by Hosco. It is called a TRN-11. It's a cylinder shape, 5mm hex head female nut. I believe the threading is metric on it, but the threading is close enough that it does work on a Martin truss rod. So special note there, anybody who has to replace a Martin truss rod nut, get one of these. Bridge is almost loose. Be real careful. There's already loose finish along this front edge, so I'm trying to avoid going this way and having that to come all the way off. The bridge is hot still. Just very gently. Getting pretty close. This should be enough to do it. Come around the side, you got to be really careful. First fret past the edge of the body. I'm going to take that out. It's the 15th, and the dovetail should be right underneath that. Yep, that feels, I can almost slide this in and out without, yep, I'm not actually drilling a hole, I'm in that gap. Go all the way down, you can over here do the other side. The idea is with those two holes, I'm going to use a syringe with some water, try and fill up that neck joint in there, that void. And I've got some, these are for cutting foam. So needles, craft needles, and you just stick them inside, down in these two holes, and I kind of rotate back and forth, pull one out, pour more water in, wait a while, pull the other one out, put some water in. You don't really see much steam coming out because it's such a small hole. Definitely can hear it. Maybe I can catch that with my camera. But that's the idea. It gets everything steaming inside, and the glue eventually lets loose, and you're able to wiggle the neck out. You don't want to wiggle much. You want to be able to just get it to kind of slide out. That's really loose now. Let's see if I can push this out. My thumb is where the greatest pressure is. There we go. Nice and clean. Alright, so the next step was to remove the bridge plate, which is inside the guitar. If I was to film it, all you're going to see is me standing here with my hand inside. So shown you this before. I've cut off the back of an unrepairable guitar just to show as an example. The bridge plate is this part here. So right underneath where the bridge is, this is to help support the top, because you've got a thin spruce top, you've got brace or whatever. This helps again, fight the against the pull of the ball ends of the strings. And what you do is you have to stick your hand inside and have this heating pad that will heat the bridge plate. Once you have it hot, then you reach in with your claw here and you start pulling along this back edge until it comes free. And you can see here, I've got the bridge plate out. Came out nice and clean. There's no wood left on the bottom side. So this will be getting replaced. I'll be using a fresh piece of maple that will maybe be a little bit bigger, maybe just a little bit thicker, because we're doing a repair. Ideally, you don't want to have really thick braces inside your acoustic, but sometimes when it's a repair and you have a top that was collapsing as bad as this one, you need to beef it up a little bit. Alright, so now I'm going to work on, I don't really have to do much flattening of the top. Once I've been actually going through and looking for braces that are either loose, or if I can break them loose because they've been weakened from all the excess humidity, and I've got a lot of them that have come loose. Also right here inside the sound hole, if you own a Martin or many other brands, you just run your finger along there. There's a little mini brace there. I'll show you, it's like this guitar. These I was able to remove pretty easily. The reason for that is because the top dips in this area, so I'm going to make a couple new ones, just a touch thicker, and if I can't get this top to kind of rebound and flatten out, I might add just a very slight curve to them to help push this back level and get things straightened out through here. Going through this, just kind of give you the idea. Coming in with the feeler gauge long like this, and most of the X braces are loose. It's just one section. I forget which one. I'm kind of flipping around the opposite way, but we've got, like, let's say this section is completely loose. This is most of the way loose, and then we have part of this one loose as well. So I'll be able to re-glue these flat and get everything real solid, get plenty of glue in there. It'll be a lot stronger than if I had left it. There's just plenty of spots here where the glue just isn't strong enough to hold things in place anymore. So we gotta break it loose, re-glue it. This is the brace on the Martin along here that was coming loose. I showed earlier around the truss rod. Something nice that has happened though is this area here had shifted, and we have a little crack over here, and you could feel a lip. Now that I've loosened the whole brace here, it lines up almost perfectly now. So I'm not having to try and push the neck block out or anything to stretch it. Once we get things loose, it goes right into place. Then don't forget about the back braces. We've got a bunch of spots along the back where I need to get these glued in. Acoustic guitars, everything supports everything else. If you got one part that starts coming loose, the parts it's attached to start coming loose as well. So that's why if you have a crack in the side, you want to get that glued up, because you got the tension pulling the top apart, so it's just going to get worse. If you have a bad brace or a bad bridge plate inside, that's going to end up causing the top to come out, and your bridge could come loose. So definitely want to make sure that you double check that the back braces are also fully glued. They help support everything else. So right here is one of the obvious signs of the binding being loose. You see that wiggle? So what I'm going to do, I'll very carefully scribe, back a little ways, and just see how easily this peels off. Down here we can feel that there's a ledge there. It's broken away. The finish is all chipped up. But the same deal, if I get to I need to get back to here, this is definitely loose. We've got a lip here as well. This along here, I'll take a razor blade and just nicely scribe, so that hopefully when I'm pulling this binding loose, I'm not making the finish shatter like really far. It's just right along where I'm pulling it back. You can actually feel this here. See, that's, I got to repair it. So it'll start looking a little nasty, but that's why it's here. Gotta fix it and make it look good. It's coming off very easy. I'm just using the razor blade almost like a plow or a wedge. Need to prep the binding to get glued back on. So I'm just holding it down on a flat surface here. I'm going to scrape off the old glue here. It's the brown part. And then once I've gone through this whole strip, then I'll take another little flat block wrap some sandpaper on it and scuff this surface. That way you have a little extra texture for the binding cement to grab onto. There we go. All the bindings glued back on, nice and secure. What I'm going to do now, before I do the actual little repair here, is enough of this binding was chipping, and we actually had a lot of little stress cracks, especially in the waist area. I'm just going to scrape it clean. We'll melt in a little bit of binding here. Then I'm going to airbrush a little bit of tinted lacquer over that just to get to match. It's a lot easier than stripping the whole thing. The rest of the guitar does not need refinishing, but I got to follow through and make this look better. All right, to show you on, or kind of describe the idea of what I'm doing on the guitar that's actually the subject of this video. I've already glued the one side of the back braces, but we've got four. One was really far back, two in the middle, one up front. I'm going to do all four at one time. I've got, it kind of depends on the situation, but with back ones, I can't reach a clamp in like you would for clamping the bridge on or whatever. There's some clamps that'll, for clamping braces, I can't do that with the back. So I'll use a turnbuckle, and I use some of the moldable plastic. If you watched any of my videos, you know what this stuff is. And I will fit it in after I put the glue in where the brace is and make it a little bit snug. Then on the outside, where that is, I'll put cam clamp, apply appropriate pressure, and that will help press the brace back to the back. You know, like I said, it's hard to coordinate with the top braces because there's X braces go angles. They don't always line up. There have been times where you get lucky and you've got your back brace going right there, and you got a loose top brace right there, and you can just put a turnbuckle right between them and get them both at the same time. Not the story with this guitar. So I'm going to go through, do that with the back braces, get them glued in. Some of the top braces I'll use the same method. If I have something in the right area where I can put one of the brace clamps in, and use that, because then you can kind of control the pressure a little better. But back braces, you just can't do that. And anyways, not able to show that to you, but just an explanation. Once I've got all those glued up, then we're going to do the bridge plates and start doing the finish on the binding. Getting the last of this binding prepped for the airbrush, and I've gone through, cleaned it off really well, got all the old lacquer off, because if I'm going to be adding color to it, I got to have it clean or else it's going to end up looking blotchy. Also, the first coat's going to have color in it, then it's going to be straight clear on top. Layer after layer of color will get darker and darker, so I'm going to try and I want to try and hit that right there, that yellowed lacquer, match it on the first coat, then I can build up clear on it so that I can get it level with the wood, sand, and buff, and not be taking away that color. After that, I'm gonna tape this off before that, I'm gonna tape it off real close, spray the yellow on, peel the tape off that's right next to it, and then have the clear feather out over the old finish. So not only am I cleaning the binding, but then I'm going to go back and hit the original finish out on top of the wood just a little bit. Give it a little bit of a scuff so that the new finish will kind of bite in. And also just kind of making sure that I don't have any squeeze out from when I glued the binding on. And this will get it all nice and even looking. While I'm going through gluing up the braces, time to make the bridge plate as well. So I'm just gonna, I made my own stock here, maple, nice and hard, currently just a little bit thicker than what I need, maybe about 30% thicker. I'm gonna get it cut out, and then I'll run it through my thickness sander to get it closer to this. When I replace bridge plates, because of the issues we had with this, the sunken top and everything's just pulling real hard, I like to make them a little bit thicker. This one does appear to be just a tiny bit thinner, just by eyeballing it than a normal one. So add just a little bit of thickness for strength, because this isn't the build of this. This is the repair of it. We want the repair to be stronger than the original build. So it's simply a matter of finding a good section of this. I'm going to lay this out and just trace it with pen or pencil. Get it to size, and then we'll get it put in the guitar. A little bit of a detour on this guitar. We're going to reglue the bridge because we need to do work with the top. Bridge also had a crack. We're kind of following the grain along the bottom edge of the bridge. Contact the owner of the guitar. I can repair it since it's off. Get some glue in there. Should be fine. You'd prefer to have a new bridge on. So I went to Reverb. I have bought actual Martin bridges off of Reverb before. I went to the same person. Waiting, no response. I have no idea why, but they're saying that they're selling all sorts of actual Martin bridges. No response. I've done it in the past. I don't know why they're silent this time. Found somebody else. They had a picture right there. Up, it said Martin Rosewood Bridge. This showed up. An ebony one. Contact the owner of the guitar. Much prefer to keep it with rosewood. So I go back, I let them know. They send this one. There's a big chip of wood missing out of the front edge there. They send it to me like that. Contact them again. They send this one. Well, seems fine. I go to put this on the guitar, and it doesn't actually follow the footprint of the original bridge. And if you notice, the angle of the saddle, the string holes follow that. See that? This is not a Martin bridge, but it was being sold as a Martin bridge. So 3 times with that same seller. Only once did they have an actual Martin bridge, but they didn't send me the right thing. So beware. We're taking a little detour. I will be making a bridge from scratch for this that will match the guitar. Who cares if it's actually a Martin bridge? It's going to be rosewood, it's going to match, and everything will be fine. That's the reason for me making a new bridge for this guitar. Bridge blank is definitely thicker than what I need for the bridge. I'm going to take this out and run it through my planer, take a lot of that off. It's much too much to try and sand off in a drum sander, and to try and hand carve it. This will be the quickest thing. So I'm not going to have video of that. I'll be back and we'll start cutting out the outline. There you go. Got them all drilled, matching the original bridge, all the string spacing and how far forward and back from the front and back they are. So now I'm just going to kind of mark out, where this, how it kind of slopes down here. I'm going to mark on here where that is, and it's pretty easy. You're just going on the corner of my belt sander and getting it close to that size, to that shape. I'll be just get it close, and then I'll do the rest by hand. The treble side is ever so slightly thinner than the bass side. I'll just rough it out on the belt sander, get the rounded back, things like that. Currently still letting the touch-up cure for a little bit. The new bridge is glued on. I am going to route out the saddle slot now with, even though the neck isn't glued on yet. I like to do neck resets where I put 2 strings on as a guide to help make sure that the strings are staying in alignment. Older guitars, especially a guitar like this that we know has gone through some serious humidity problems, the wood may not stay perfectly square when you take the neck off. Many times on like a 70s Martin, you get that neck taken off, you go clean everything up, put it back on. If you're to put some strings on, you might notice that they're a little off one way or the other. That's why I'm more comfortable doing the job this way. There are people that will just do it with a straight edge and measure there. You go right ahead and do that. I do it this way. The job ends up the same way. Who cares? So what I'm going to use is one of these tools. It's basically a measuring stick. You have these 2 little prongs here on the end, or little needles, and those indicate where the saddle will end up. The idea is you place this on your 12th fret, that's against the nut, you flip it around, and that points out the front edge of your saddle slot. So I'll get a little close up what this looks like. Alright, a little closer view here. A little closer view, you can see these little points here. I have these already preset to offset. They aren't exactly, or not supposed to be exactly to the front edge of this block. They are compensated back. This one, the bass side, is back a little further. It gives you that angle to the saddle. And this is adjustable here. This goes over your 12th fret. You bring that up until everything fits nice and square against the nut. Then you flip it around. I'll use a little bit of tape here. Making sure that we're keeping everything centered. I am with the strings lined up, the string holes. Then you just mark with a pencil. Oops. So hold this in place, put a little flexible ruler up against that. There you have it. That's where front edge of the saddle goes. When it comes to resetting the neck, if you watch any of my videos, this is the method I like to use. Just put a strip of tape along the edge here, as long as the finish is nice or stable. If you got any finish lifting, you need to take care of that first. You don't want to be putting tape on finish that's chipping away, because when I take that off, then you've got finish damage. So make sure the finish is stable. Just a slight little angle here so I can see just that tiny little bit I'm going to be removing. Taper it upwards because we want to bring the neck down like that. So you're taking more off down here than we are towards the top. And I like to use these sanding sticks. Used to use a chisel and up vials, but I've grown to really like using these on this type of situation. No sharp blades or anything. Gets the job done pretty quick. That's all there is to it. So each neck reset I do, I can typically count on doing this process like 2 or 3 times. I don't go for taking so much wood off that I go past where I want to be. It's much better to kind of creep up to where you want that neck angle to be. So each time I do these stages over and over. A little strip of sandpaper. Once we went through with the sanding stick and kind of took off the amount of material I was looking at, then to make this, I followed through and get this seam here where the neck heel meets the body. A little strip of sandpaper, just slide it underneath and just slip it out. Trying to do this for the camera, but it'll slide out like that, and that way you can match all the little contours between the two pieces of wood here, the body and the neck. Flat isn't always perfectly flat. If you want to get that really nice sealed edge here, you need to do this process each time, and I'll try and get you a close-up later on here, but yeah, that's all there is to it. Once we get this closed up all the way around, then I'm going to set it up in the jig and check my progress. Gonna need a clamping call for this. Once again, if you watch enough of my videos, you see me doing this, but moldable plastic, put it in hot water, becomes like silly putty. Just gonna take enough of this here and create basically a perfect clamping call. Make this a little bit bigger. This, once it starts getting cloudy, it's starting to harden up, and when it's all the way cooled off and hard, it'll be white. I don't want to press it into the finish. You want to make sure that got enough room to put some cork underneath this to pad the finish. Use a little wood block here. Also make sure that it's flat on this side so that my clamping table has a flat surface to work against. With the neck reset, making a new saddle for this. Just used a nice piece of bone here. Carved in a little generic compensation to it. So the B is brought back, G is forward. And want it to slide in, not have to be forced in. Should be able to slide it out by hand, but also it does not wiggle. Fit means fit. Not loose, not tight, fit. So next step, pretty obvious, we got a gap now, because I've trimmed the neck to go back so the neck wobbles around in there. Got to glue some shims onto the dovetail here. I just have some pieces of mahogany. The neck's mahogany, this is going to be fine. It doesn't matter what type of wood you use here. I mean, I wouldn't use balsa wood because that's just going to crush, but just whatever wood's going to work. These get glued on, and they're already pretty thin. As you can see, that's thinned out pretty good. But I'll be trimming in here to get this to fit down, because even just these two thin shims, the neck's not going to fit down in here again. So after this has cured, I'll be sanding these until the neck fits all the way down into the dovetail joint. Not much left of the shims once we get this all to size, but you want to glue in something that's a little oversized and trim it down. And it's just pretty simple task. The idea, we get this fit where you don't have to force it in, just give like a little nudge or whatever, and it does not wiggle around. You know, obviously it's dovetail, you have to hold it in place, but you know, it's not wiggling down here, it's not wiggling up here. You know, we've got the binding on the sides of the fingerboard, or if it was just the fingerboard, all the way flush to the top. So one last time in the jig, just to dry run, make sure everything is where it's supposed to be, that nothing has changed. I mean, it shouldn't change, but always want to do that just to make sure. Final dry run, everything's put together, angle's looking good, neck is lined up. This is it's just kind of a universal neck jig here. I use it for all sorts of different things. I don't work on one specific brand of guitar, so just like with the moldable plastic cauls, I can reform them to fit the different neck heel shapes and so on. Just the same thing with this this little table here. I can use it for many designs of guitars. With all the work, the owner of the guitar asking about fret work, and you could do a fret dress on this, but it's kind of pretty common. We've got the first three have some wear, so I'm going to replace these first, then do a fret dress. There isn't reason to replace all of them. The rest of these have very little wear on them. It's just the first three. Pulling these, you know, we've got some pretty good pits here. Pulling these and replacing them prevents me having to grind all these frets down to match the lowest points on these frets. So I'm actually kind of saving plenty of fretwork up here. Partial refret, so there's really no, well, in this instance there's no leveling the fingerboard. Sometimes if you have a rise or whatever at the end, you can pull frets, sand down the fingerboard, put the frets back in, but we don't need to do that this time. I'm just cleaning up where the frets are going to be put in and make everything nice. Bound fingerboard, so we gotta cut the tang off the fret just at the ends. Small fret wire is a little hard to get trimmed well. Once you clip the tang, there's a little bit of it left on the underside of the bead, so you got to file that off. Make sure it's smooth under there, or else it'll look weird once you bevel the fret ends. See that? That side has been cleaned. That side has not. Need to get that taken off. So it looks like that. All right, so I'm going to do a fret dress on this. Replace the first 3 frets. Kind of the real funny thing about this guitar, going through so many things, like all the braces coming loose, needing to re-glue the bridge and all that, all these humidity problems, but the neck has really stayed true. It is very close to level. I did replace the first 3 frets, so I'm going to go through and just make sure that I've got everything matched up. But just going through and adjusting this, the tops of the frets, comparing everything, this would probably play pretty good without the fret dress. But I'm still going to follow through, make sure that everything is done right. I don't want to finish this off and find out there was one little spot that I missed, and we've got a buzzy area. So still going to do that. It's just one of those things. It's kind of funny how certain woods will react way more to humidity changes than others. Now on a fret dress like this, where I'm not using my neck jig, my leveling bar, it's kind of heavy, I just barely glide it across the top. So I don't want to lay this on and have the guitar sag when I'm going across here. But then also you got to double check with the straight edge to make sure you're staying level. Martin M38, rescued from the rainforests of Belize. Actually, I don't think it was in the rainforest, but was living there for much of its life. That high humidity, exact opposite of what's going on here in Minneapolis, where everything is so dry and wants to come apart. This was the other direction. Everything was so humid. We have a whole bunch of braces not able to stay attached to the top wanting to sink in. Got to correct the neck angle, everything. Some surprises along the way, especially like trying to get a bridge for this. Like, I just couldn't believe that, well, you can't get them direct from Martin anymore. Used to be able to. I had been able to buy them online, Reverb, and I do not know what's going on with the people selling them there anymore. So I just needed to get one on so I could keep the job moving, so I just went ahead and made one. Partial refret, getting the binding with a little bit of yellow on. This is not a refinish. This isn't a perfected type of touch-up on finish. After all, we've got all sorts of stuff going on with the neck. Refinishing the guitar would have been way over budget, way more labor. So just get it back looking so that there's nothing, suspicious looking about it. Just get a little bit of yellow on there. The binding, it shrinks back from the rest of the sides and the top. We've still got a little ledge there, so the average person picking this up isn't going to notice that anything's been done to it. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions or comments, you can always leave it below the video, or you can contact me directly. That information will be in the About section of my channel, and we'll see you next time.